Welcome to a combined committee this morning here at Winter City Council. This morning we'll be discussing first Parks and Rec, and then we will have a conversation on the electrical committee today. Present are appointed officials, Public Works Director Troy Kruger and Finance Officer Chandra Phillips, Marty Peterson with Parks and Cemetery, Ray, I'm drawing a Ray Bright he's the city electrician. And I have three councilmen here today. I have Councilman Schramm, Councilman Clay, and Councilman Schuyler. As we combine these committees, we're back to a three councilman committee today, which hasn't happened in a long time.
Last week.
Oh, last week, okay. Troy, I know we did budget retreat all day yesterday. None of us have agendas. The floor is yours. Guide us home.
I know I didn't even print out sheets. I know you guys looked at numbers all day yesterday, so I just wanted to get through these, bring these two committees in. We don't have a whole lot to talk about in Parks and Cemetery. Our summer kids are gone for the year. We're down to just our seasonal help. We don't. You got anything in Parks at all? We talked a little bit about yesterday. We plan on doing the ball field lights getting those ordered, doing that this spring. That's about the only thing that we're still working on. That parking lot down at the complex down there. When we had bituminous in town this week, we actually had the state visit us. They were looking at our process of doing our streets and what we're doing with our milling and overlaying and our crack sealing, and so we had two guys from the state of South Dakota stop out, and they were very interested in what Renner's doing, and they were giving us a big applaud on what we're doing with our city streets and how we're maintaining them and keep taking care of them. But they looked at our ball field parking lot with all of our chips, our recycle that's coming off our streets, and we've been putting the last couple of years we've been going to that location with our chips so we could stay ahead of the miller, and then we just before we haul them all away, we've been trying to put another layer of that chips on there. And that guy said, and he gave us some ideas of what we could do to really have a nice parking lot there without spending a ton of money on asphalt. And he suggested that we put another layer of those chips on and get a good, 2-3 inches of that chip, and then you take a sand and you put sand on there, and that sand kind of fills in all the voids, and then you put an emulsion on there, kind of similar to what the county did.
A blotter street.
Around here, and then you roll it, and he thought we would have a really nice parking lot in that ball field for fairly inexpensive. So that was.
Where do you go with your chips then? Because you aren't going to want trucks go in on your blotter street or whatever you'd call that. That'd tear the heck out of it. But where would you put your chips for your next project? I agree, it'd make a great parking lot there, but you'd have to keep trucks off it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, it's not going to stand up to. Big.
Parents coming into the ball game would be wonderful.
Yeah.
But using it now, Jeremy, is only temporary while we're under construction. Is that not correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're never going to do any more streets in your neighborhood.
Okay.
No, just an idea. More uses. A lot of those that recycled asphalt, that's going to go to the alleyways this fall. That's one of the deals that we did. We're going to make some blotter roads out of it, cemetery. We got a ton of uses for those, but it was good information, stuff that everybody's running into the same thing these days. Trying to all their resources and stretching them as far as they can and getting done what they can with them, because you just can't afford to do asphalt and concrete anymore. So you got to work with what you got. But we're kind of done, and we did order some doors for all the bathrooms, and we're planning on getting that done and getting those in yet this fall. So we'll do the 2 bathrooms down at the Bailey's complex. We're going to do the bathrooms on the concession stand at McDonald's Park, and then also the 2 doors up at the Leahy Bowl complex. And those doors are every door we have in the city on all those doors. We're shocked. They're metal heavy doors, so we're putting on. Go ahead and tell them what you ordered.
Yeah, we just, for some of them that we could save the frame, we just ordered door slabs.
Yep,
But
that was
the-
my question, if we were gonna use
Yeah.
the same frames, yeah.
And then, but McDonald's changing them to outswing doors, so changing the frame and everything on there, which that's a different ballgame too. That's built weird. But Ron Ernest is gonna do them for us. He's worked on the frame already where it was damaged. They're good to go, so when the time comes, they're measured to fit exact. The hinges, the backstops, or the back sets and stuff, you know how all that
Yep.
goes and stuff, so.
Yep,
No, we'll be in good shape. Heavy-duty closers, safety change, handicap thresholds, just,
Hopefully get a little more wear out of these. Other than that, all those buildings are in really good shape. The Bailey's complex, if we have some miscellaneous concrete money left this year, we have some concrete work to do around the bathrooms on the north side. It's busting up and heaving and starting to pop up, and it's just gonna become a trip hazard, so that's, we'll try and squeeze that in miscellaneous concrete for, get that wrapped up before the year. But
got a softball tournament out there Labor Day weekend, and a baseball, Little League Baseball. They're gonna play on Bailey's. So,
Is it-
I don't know how many teams or anything, but
Is everybody turned in there? And, the entity that's doing the softball tournament has requested the concession stands. They would like to run the concession stands. They got that call. So, yeah, we're watching Marty's budget closely. I mean, they're kind of starting to wrap up, so they gotta do some fall fertilizing, fall spraying, and then as the days get shorter and we get into fall, those guys will be kind of going into the maintenance program. We do have that, half hockey rink, and I know that's I've got a lot of questions on that, people asking me, and I have not measured if that's going to fit in the city park on that concrete.
according to what he said, it will.
Yeah, we kind of stepped it off that one day.
I
Well,
measured it
did.
with the wheel. It's like 80, the concrete's 70 by 100, I think.
Right,
are you talking about the parking lot concrete or the basketball court concrete?
Basketball court
where the
concrete
tennis courts used to be. down
Yeah,
there.
that's,
at the city park.
What's,
'Cause we'll
what's
lose
really,
that.
what's
Yeah.
really interesting, two other communities are now looking for half hockey
I heard that on
rinks
the radio.
to put in their communities.
Well, maybe we could sell it.
I don't think so.
The only thing we really need to do to it, it's in pretty decent shape, but we'll probably get it out and pressure wash it, give it a good coat of paint.
Is it plastic or wood?
wood.
It's wood.
Wood. Yeah,
But
there's a
you
few
line it-
boards to fix, I see, and it's nothing major, I don't think.
Don't you put plastic on the bottom? So the wood only gets exposed to the weather, not the ice.
Yeah.
Would imagine.
Yeah.
I believe you're gonna have a lot of free assistance the first time we put that up. I think
hope so.
I think Steve's gonna be very involved in this, making sure it gets done.
But he said it only takes inch ice.
1 inch of ice is all it takes.
The less the better, you said.
Is that the best place to put it? You think we'll lose the basketball courts?
In
Is that
December,
very important in the wintertime?
No, we don't play much basketball in the winter.
Don't tell me that. All the time.
They do here in our community center, but they don't outside.
Okay, because we gave them an indoor
Yeah.
one, they don't utilize that as much?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Last winter, it was
yeah, that's the next
3 feet of
thing.
snow in it. I mean,
Okay,
Snow blower.
Mhm. Snow removal on the ice skating rink.
Do you have enough to get us a snow blower attachment for that new Ventrac?
We need a cab then too.
Do we have a snow blower on one of our skid steers? We do.
Yeah, we have a snow blower on that skiddy.
you don't think that the athletes that are gonna ice skate, if we just leave a shovel there, they can just shovel it themselves?
Shovel
happening.
wouldn't stay there.
That'd be through a window.
Put the shovel on a chain as big as the court. You'd only need it half as big as the court.
Anything else?
We got nothing else? we're down to maintenance, our guys, I mean, the mowing and stuff, so. But
Yes, sir.
that's not weekly, you know, that's not every day, so we'll be,
Yesterday, you talked during the cemetery portion about trying to get to work on those roads in the cemetery. Is that gonna be done with the Leeboy if we get asphalt, or what's your thoughts on that operationally? How are you planning on doing those?
Plan on doing is just loading up dump trucks and just like we would do hot mix, but use that little paver. And then
You would use the paver?
just lay the chips down with that, lay the recycled asphalt down with that paver, because it'll lay it down, you know, perfect 2 inches, and then just go, and then pack it, and then do a double chip seal on it.
How is our packer?
It's fine.
At one time, I know a couple of years ago, we ran some water out of it or something.
Yeah, it's getting the water pump, it's old, I mean, it's really old, but for what we use it for, just potholes, and it's cold, I mean,
It's gonna set
the
up
water,
fast.
the water on the packer is to keep the asphalt from sticking to the rollers. When you're putting down hot asphalt, you put the water, they're constantly
Yep.
water dripping out so that doesn't stick.
That part doesn't work, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's that.
but it's
part.
unnecessary for what
Yeah,
we're doing
it's
here.
not necessary for what.
For laying the cold stuff, you don't need the water. Yep.
That's experimental. We've never tried it before. We don't know if it's.
That's the beauty about us. We're not afraid to try new things.
I mean, in theory, it should work just fine. There's some bigger chunks in the asphalt that are low. We're not 100% sure how those will go through that machine, but it should work fine. That's about all I got for Parks and Cemetery. Kurt is on his way. He got tied up this morning. They got called out, so. I guess you can stick around if you want to listen to electrical committee, or you can.
How we coming on the baseball field at McDonald's?
We got the sod laid. It's looking better every day. I know there's some dry spots in it, but they're getting wet, so but I'd say 80% of it looks great.
Is that field gonna be complete then now
Yeah.
that we got sod down and everything
Yeah,
else?
we gotta cut baselines out, the
that
mound.
next spring, or-
Yeah, we're gonna
Yeah.
let it get, we're gonna
Yeah,
let
yeah,
it get
yeah.
rooted.
Now, did you roll that with a roller
Yep.
after you got it laid?
Yep.
Because I wondered about your dry spots, if the grass
No,
wasn't pushed down
No,
into the dirt.
we've rolled it,
Okay,
and Rusty even went out and he's got hookups at the golf course and borrowed their heavy roller that they use it. So,
It was
But-
level. I mean, there was no areas where, the only places where the sod wasn't touching the soil was around a couple of sprinkler heads. Where the sprinkler heads, we're gonna have to raise them up a
We
little
raised
bit
one
after
up
the
and
sod
stuff,
was
yeah,
in,
but-
but, I mean, Marty had that thing nice and
Yep,
level, and
yep.
we actually raked it before we rolled each section of sod. We raked it out and smoothed it out, so everything was laying nice and flat.
Yeah, there was-
It's just,
3 or 4 kids going ahead of us, hand raking.
and I think the reason that there's probably a couple spots in there that aren't 100% healthy yet was after we laid the sod, the dirt that we laid the sod on was dry. I mean, there was no moisture in it. And then, and Marty and I we contemplated, well, we better soak it down. So we took the water truck out there and we put about
A whole
2,000 gallons of
whole
water on
truckload
it.
of water on there.
I mean, we soaked it down good, and then Rusty rolled it again, and we went through that process, but then, as luck would have it, we get 3 inches of rain in the next week and a half, so I think a couple of those spots got maybe overwatered a little bit, so they're coming out of that. But this dry, hot weather that we had was probably the best thing we could have had for it, just to dry everything back out again, and now they can just turn on the sprinklers and let it go, so. That's my guess, is why we had a couple of spots that are a little brown. They just got too much water.
It needs mowed, but I'm not gonna, I mean, it's that tall in places.
wait till Chelsea sends you a letter. 'cause
Right.
The longer you
I
let it
had to
get
weed
down,
eat
the
around the
better.
sprinkler heads, because the sprinkler heads wouldn't reach over some of the grass, so
Yeah, no, I don't know if it's, how do you get mow it?
push mow it.
I didn't even know we had one.
Yeah, we got one.
You gonna bag it?
Yep.
Yep.
But
All right.
other than that, I would think we're doing okay, I guess.
We are.
So the Jeremy Clay press box will be back in action this year.
Good, glad to hear it.
Did you get a sign ordered for that yet?
I got the stencils already.
If you don't have the funds, I know somebody that'll donate a sign.
I already ordered the stencils.
Put my cell phone number
We
on.
need to get one out at the dump too, on
Yeah,
that tree
yeah.
branch of grass bough for you.
You betcha.
All right,
All right.
All right, thanks.
Marty, thank you.
I guess you get to be,
Do I need to move that to the mic? I'll sit up here. I was hoping Kurt would show up and you guys would talk about what you talk about every election. So I guess since Kurt's not here, part of, I guess, what we're doing is kind of, I'm gonna give you what information I know about the new command center metering load management. We're kind of where we're at. I guess what I would say about what command center is it's a lot bigger program than they maybe led us to believe on what we need to learn to actually utilize it. You know, command center is the name of the program that runs it. It's user-friendly when you know what parts of it you need, but it's a really huge program on what it can do. So you've got to learn what you actually need out of it and what you can ignore out of it, which has been kind of time-consuming. And then with that, you have 4 other programs we've had to learn. iForm to get the new meters to communicate with Brandy's billing. Then she has to upload that to her billing software, and we have to upload that data into Command Center to get some of the information. It's kind of that part's an hour a week, now that we kind of know how to do it. Maybe it's not much. Tech Studio is another program that ties in with it to communicate with the new metering system with the IRW radio through the air for commands that Command Center won't do through the air. So learning which ones those are has kind of been a thing also. I mean, it's been kind of software intensive. I didn't know what to expect coming in, and I never heard their sales pitch in the beginning. I mean, Troy, they kind of made it seem like it was really user-friendly and really plug and play, and I don't know that it's really turning into that yet. I mean, I know from the billing standpoint, getting iForm into the billing has been a big issue, which I don't know. It's been months. I know it's taken a couple months, and I don't know any of it, and I'm glad it's finally kind of coming together, and I hadn't had to try to think about it. So then we have Tech Studio, and Landis & Gear is really a compartmentalized company. So when we're trying to learn Tech Studio and we have a problem, and our field engineer representative, Andrew, which, you know, he's been really good. We've had several team meetings a week with Andrew, and his problems come up. He's been really good responding. So we call about a Tech Studio problem. Well, he doesn't know Tech Studio. It's the new system, so he gets a hold of somebody that says, well, I know Radio Shop, which is the old system. So they don't even really have anybody that's super up on Tech Studio yet.
No authority. There's real no authority figure
Well,
there.
there's probably a couple guys, I don't know, I'm getting the impression, you know, I knew Landis & Gear was a big company, but it might be a lot bigger than I even imagined, because they sure have a lot of people they need to talk to, because they only know their one part, and we'll get a hold of somebody else. Well, when they get a hold of the person they know to talk to about it, they may or may not know about it either. So we've had a lot of, you know, we get a lot of teams meetings, and they pull a lot of people in, and it's just been a lot of coordinating to learn it maybe. And I think you've had that a lot with with,
Our experience with them so far has been, they are designed for people, cities like New York, Houston, San Antonio, and when they came to our small town of Winter, they were stumped because we were too small for what they're used to. They're used to the same thing in their cities. One person does the tech studio, one person does this, one person does that.
Could
So
be.
the fact that we have 3 people that do it all confused them. I mean, that was a lot of where our confusion came from too. I don't know. It's,
And so you ask yourselves, why did we go with Landis and Gear?
well, you, but,
And the answer to that question is because previous to Kurt, it was previous superintendents at the light department were sold on Landis and Gear, and so we'd already had a number of Landis and Gear meters in our system that we'd already purchased and we'd already put money into, because that's what they wanted 8 or 9 years ago. So we had been replacing all of our GE meters with Landis and Gear meters, and so that's kind of the path that was chosen for us. I think once we get this thing up and going, the reason we're here today, giving you an update, kind of an update, the system is very, very detail oriented. We can print out reports now. Once this thing's up and going and all the headaches are done, and like Ray said, it can do a lot. We'll find out that what we actually need from it is very little part of what it's capable of doing, but it will allow us to do a lot of really neat stuff, and customer support is gonna be crazy good. The reports that we can run are really good, but we're into this thing, like, we're up to here right now. And we're at the end of our support. When we decided to go with when we went full out with Landis and Gear, and we purchased the big number of meters and the load control switches, and we're like, okay, we're putting in Landis and Gear, that's gonna be our system. We're gonna take out all the GE stuff. That came with a lot of training and customer support, and we're at the end of that as of Wednesday, I believe.
well,
They're gonna.
yes and no, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, they introduced us to who's taking over our customer support on Wednesday, and she's based in the US, and I think she's gonna be good. Well, what?
The training team.
There was some concern there. But I think it's gonna be a really good system. It's just huge. So whittling down and trying to learn the part we need to learn has kind of been a thing. Now, the next thing, which leads to the load management, which is initially why half of the decision was made to buy this system. We've gotten a tutorial from Landis and Gear that Kurt and I have gone through, and it was probably 25 hours online kind of a deal, and they watched us do it. They gave it to us like June 1st, and with the time frame of we needed to be through it by June 15th, and honestly, it was probably July 12th before we actually finished it. So, I know on the light plant, on Kurt's side, they were doing a lot of underground, a lot of overhead, some call-outs. One day we were supposed to do something, then WAPA calls and tells us on Monday that Thursdays there's an outage, kind of a thing. So, Power Center is a whole nother computer system. It doesn't tie into Command Center a whole bunch. I think it's gonna be even with the tutorial, I think when we actually use it, I think it's a 2/10 or 3/10 job for 6 months to learn it, maybe more. I don't know. It's going to be a whole nother thing to learn to get load management set up. And right now we're working through trying to figure out our daily usage, what point we kind of start worrying about load management. I think we're in Command Center and all these other programs, 1132 and 1132 COM and PROG, which is computer systems, which has been in the metering world for a long time, that, I never had the metering background. It's it's out there a lot, and we're using it a lot right now, trying to deal with, I don't know, was I supposed to expound on a couple of the problem things we're having still?
No, thank you for the recap. I'll take it from here though. And, the reason that you guys are here today is because of Ray and Kurt been doing a great job with this deal. We have run into a couple things though. He has to actually get back in the homes that currently have load management on them. And, so he's kind of having to go back and explain why they were on it to begin with. And what we did is we offered them some incentives to be on it, so it's a little discount on their utilities to be on load management. Some of those houses have permits on them, and some of those houses don't have, or some of the homes that Ray needs to get into don't have permits on them. So that's an added expense that we did not realize we were gonna have to have. So he is going to have to order permits from the state, because he's basically going in and he's tapping into their electrical system, and he's putting switches on there, which is shutting off their hot water heater, their furnace, anything that's, higher voltage use. So we're actually controlling that. We reprinted our original, sheets that we were given to the public to get them to get on this program to begin with. And we're gonna go around to those houses, and we've identified the homes that are on it. We have a list of all the homes that are on load management. We're hoping we can use a lot of the equipment that was installed in this first go-round, but that's not always the case. It's a little slower process than we thought, but one of the things that got brought up, and Kurt mentioned it, I researched it a little bit, and load management is every town does it now. I mean, it's a commonplace with electricity and controlling your peak. So that's the whole purpose of load management, is to keep your electrical usage from peaking way up, because most people that sell electricity, most entities that sell they bill on peak. So whatever your peak is, that's what they bill you on. So that's the whole process, is to try to curb that peak and keep from exceeding that peak, so that you stay in a where you want to be billed at. And one of the practices that we're finding that they're doing, and we would like you guys to consider this, is new homes that are built, and it would have to be an ordinance that would be put in place. But any new homes or businesses that come into winter and want to build, they would automatically have to be a part of load management. And that's just, I called around to several communities, and that's just Huron and Vermillion and a bunch of other towns, and they're all doing that kind of stuff. And it just lets them be on top of, we have, I guess we have about close to 500 homes that are on it. We're having a meeting with MRES next week, and we've got a bunch of questions for them. Our current program was set up by that Jim Inga in Madison, and it was before me. It was before anybody. I don't know if you guys were a part of that or whatever, but Jim kind of just, between him and Craig, they kind of did it, and so there wasn't a lot of information on what, how they set that up and what they're looking at for numbers. And so we're gonna have a meeting with MRES hopefully next week, and we're gonna figure out we have a lot of questions for them. What our peak, what our peak is, what our highest peak has been in the last 12 years, what our average usage is. I know I've had that conversation with them a couple times, and we average about 8.4 megs a day in winter. That's kind of but I think that's probably gone up a little bit, maybe in the last couple of years, because we've got quite a few businesses, new businesses that are up and running since I've been here, restaurants, and so that might be going up a little bit, but we just want to make sure that we get this thing right the first time. And the other thing with Landis and Gear is, so there's there's kind of a fine line, I guess, between load management and load shedding.
Load what, please?
They call it load shedding.
Shedding, okay?
So, you wanna be consistent, you don't wanna peak, so you wanna curve those peaks, and that's what you're doing with load management. But Landis has the ability to, you can set it up so it runs kinda like our current one. Or you could set it up so that, we could just be shutting things on and off all the time, 24/7, 365. And that would be more of a load shedding kind of a deal. But you don't wanna cut your revenues because you would be, you could be, it could be detrimental to you, it could go the opposite way on you, so, and then also with that, it could be set up to do it automatically, or it could be set up so where it would be, monitored by somebody on a daily basis. So these are all things that we're gonna go through and scenarios that we're gonna look at with both Landis and with both, and MRAS, and to see what's the best, best fit for us. But I think that would be a wise ordinance to put in place, would be to have new homes that come into the community, just because it simplifies a lot of things. Number one, if somebody's building a home, Ray can get in there and he can install load management, and it can be part of that electrical inspection that gets done when that home gets inspected. But number two, the equipment that we have to put in there, then it's a lot easier to fit it in there at that time than it is to go into an existing home and try to make room in their basement, or people have finished basements and they just don't, they've got shelves on the walls and they don't have room, a lot of extra room. So that's something that I will bring, if you guys would agree to it, we'll go from here to ordinance with it, but that would be something that we'd like to,
I would ask you to reach out to some of the cities that already have it, and let's see their ordinances, rather than us make one up that we don't know anything about. And if you've talked to Vermillion and these other towns that already do this, that would sure make it easier for our city to implement it.
What's the downfall of load management? Is there any setbacks or things that are adverse?
really nothing. I mean, it's what it is. I mean, there's always the off chance that our equipment could fail. Like, let's just hypothetical worst case scenario. Our switch could shut off somebody's air conditioner, and for some reason the switch didn't activate, didn't open up and let it turn back on. They would come home from work and their AC wouldn't be working. They're gonna call, whoever their electrician is, and they're gonna call them up, and they're gonna come and look at it, and they're gonna trace it back to our box, and they're gonna say, hey, we got 24 volts up to this box, and now we don't coming out. So they're gonna call us, and we're gonna say, oh, our switch isn't working right or something, so, I mean, it would be something like that.
In our worst cases, we'll have to pay somebody to take care of that.
To take care of that.
Probably worse than that would be the freezer that doesn't come back on.
We do not hook up to freezers.
We don't do that, okay?
No, and we don't hook up to it's just specific pieces of equipment.
Okay,
So,
like water heaters and air
water
conditioners?
heaters, your HVAC system.
Yep,
Baseboard heat.
Heat's a big one,
yep.
because that's a high, they're.
Baseboard is a high user, yep, I
Yeah,
agree.
that's a high, electric,
Yep.
that's a type of electric heat that is that's very inefficient, to put it that way. Hot tubs are super inefficient. My bill went up about $100 a month in the winter, $75 a month.
We'll start shutting it off longer. There is one, some places put load management on electric clothes dryers. And then if you was getting close to your allotment, or if electrical availability actually becomes an issue, there are some places that just shut the clothes dryer off from 3 to 6 o'clock at night. So it just won't even start during that time period. That's one thing. If, as electricity gets to be more of an issue of availability. We may not see it here. Some municipalities in bigger towns, I think, really are pushing the fine line all the time. So,
MRES is actually, they are actually switching over to time of use. I think that starts next.
It already did.
Yeah, it's already
January
started,
1st.
so.
so then shutting off a clothes dryer during time of use would be one way that you would make sure you don't have that load on it during time of use, but you'd have to let your customers know. So, I mean, that's one thing that could happen.
I wouldn't recommend that. I mean, I totally wouldn't recommend that
No,
because
I
you get
I
you
wouldn't
get the
vote
gal
for
that
it.
takes a week of vacation and she's home with the kids and she wants to do, 5 loads of laundry during, if she can't do laundry, she's not gonna be happy.
No. Well, you hear those horror stories, I think it was in Denver or something.
Texas.
Or
Texas
They
was
shut
a
off
really
the air
bad one.
conditioner, it was
Yeah.
like 100 degrees, and they shut it off for 2 days, said, no, you can't use anymore.
No, the way our current system works is it shuts it off in 15-minute intervals.
Okay.
So it bounces from home to home and,
So you get the same effect,
yeah.
yeah, overall
It
effect.
shuts my air conditioning system off for 15 minutes. And all we control on the air conditioning is the thermostat. We don't actually we're not actually controlling the air conditioning unit itself, we're just controlling the thermostat, so.
That was that horror story that I read, where they controlled the thermostat, turned it up to like 85, and so.
Get us a couple of samples that we can copy. I mean, I'm a plagiarizer like you can't believe, so if you can do that.
You cite
Never
your,
done- never
cite
done
your
it.
sources, do you?
No, not on an ordinance, should. If Vermillion has one and we like it, okay, type it up.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's doing this, load management is.
T might be a good place, cause I know they give you a water heater if you sign up for their stuff,
Yep.
okay? So they'll give you the appliance, but you gotta agree to let them shut it off. So maybe we should see something from T or someplace like that that's already doing the load management stuff.
Yeah, I've heard of that program, that's a little different, that's kind of what he was talking about, that time of use.
Yep.
So there's certain times in the day where where that water heater's not energized, it's not heating it, and it can't heat.
Right.
So that's the
Yeah,
deal.
they're-
And they
they're
also-
probably-
But they also sell you a water heater that has 8 inches of insulation around it.
Yeah,
I
what
mean, they're
they're,
just huge.
what they're promoting is high efficiency, equipment. So it's
But they
like
give you the,
95 and above % efficient, so that people aren't buying, there's a huge difference between, like, I don't even know what the lowest you can go, but I know the one that I had in my previous rental house, the sticker was still on and it was 83% efficient.
yeah,
It's not efficient at all. You can buy ones now that are in the high 90s,
Yep.
I think my current one is a gas one and it's 90%, 97% efficient, but
well, if you'll do that research, it'll make it a lot easier on the ordinance committee to,
all I need is a yes or no, right?
pardon me?
All I need is a yes or no.
To pursue that ordinance.
What?
Is that something that you would
No, I
like
think
to
that's
pursue?
fine. Look at pursuing it.
It's
Yeah,
not gonna be a big deal. It's,
I'm with you.
I mean,
Yeah, that's fine, look at pursuing it.
yeah.
But
But
if
we've
you
got,
could
like-
get that ordinance from the other communities and take it to ordinance committee and,
we've gotten, I would say, this year, between the houses that were moved in and a couple that have been, constructed, probably a half a dozen, maybe not quite that many houses that have come into winter. And it's just super easy, and, if we can get in during that construction project, that makes his job much more easy.
But you as a council have to agree with the idea of load management on every new business or home coming into the
Yep.
community. And I think I'm seeing that from the three
I
of
think
you.
so.
But the first
As long
step
as
there
there's
is
no
to
adverse
look at
effect.
what the ordinance should say.
Right.
and
First
whether or
step
not we
is
think
you,
people will accept it.
yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
First step is you making that decision to pursue it, and then now Troy's got to, and Mr. Jensen,
Yeah.
get those ordinances, let you take a look at them and say, this is what fits the city of Winter's vision.
We're gonna do a little, here in the next month, we're gonna do a little PR stuff. I'm guessing we'll probably print out a flyer, put it out with, billing, and just kind of remind people of the program and give them an explanation of what it does and what, you know, if your home is on load management, you're never gonna know. I
I
mean,
think I'm on load
there's,
management.
you're not even gonna know that it's on there. It's just one of those things, but what it does for the city is huge. And we only have a certain amount of load control switches in our possession. So I think we ordered like 700 and some was I don't remember the exact number, but the number of homes that we have on load management is just under 500. So it's not like the whole town is on it. And the people that are on it, like I said,
I
they
haven't
forgot that
noticed
they
it,
signed
yeah.
up for it 6 years ago. And so we're just gonna have to remind everybody what the program is, how it works. Ray ran into an instance, for instance, the reason that we started talking about this was a home that had just been sold. And the new owners, he tried to get in there before the new owners moved in, so he could put his stuff on because this home was already currently on load management. Well, they showed up while he was doing it, and now it's their home, and they're, yeah, I don't know, never heard of this, we're not sure we wanna do this, you know, how does it work? What is it? So we kinda had to resell the program to these people, and it's just cause of lack of information. So we need to get that information back out, we need to educate everybody again and get the ball
We found a
rolling.
banner, didn't
I
you?
think all council members, it should be mandatory they're on load management.
I'm on it.
Say what?
I don't have anything to manage. I don't even
Kind of
have a freezer.
Our practice has been, I know as soon as I started at the city, I mean, I'd only been working for the city like 2 days, and the city electrician showed up, and he was on the back of the house, and I was like, what you doing? And he said, well, you're a city employee, and city employees are on load management. So they put my house on load management like that.
Better get the mayor on it. Go over there and start
I've never
wiring
heard
his.
that rule.
So,
Is that an
What was your
ordinance?
question?
No,
I don't think so. I think
Yeah.
no,
it's
I've
just-
never heard that rule. through
I
our
think that
office.
was just at the time when they started rolling out load management, they started with all city employee homes, is what I heard. So-
Well, you know, you would always try to start with easy ones. That's why I was trying to get into that empty house, because I knew the previous owners. And it just didn't work out.
100%, when we had to do our annual review of them, we sent them to the employee-owned houses, because
Oh.
we could get a hold of them to say, hey, we need into your home to check them. That's the only time I'd heard the employee thing before. But didn't you find a banner that's hanging up now down at Lake Shop?
We have 3 banners down at the light plant from the original. Have you, well, you've seen it. Do you like the one with the money flying out the window that says, is this what?
The old one?
There's 3 of them that I guess you can decide if we want to
It
put them
is-
up somewhere
It is a
more.
savings to the homeowner. If you are on load management, it actually is a savings to you. I don't, you know, I can't tell you
I can't either.
what
I've been
the
on it since
savings
the
is, but
beginning,
it's
but
like,
I
it's,
Can you check Chandler, see if I'm on it? I don't know.
Yeah.
I
think I-
maybe I
Don't
will.
touch my hot
It
tub.
used
If
to
you
be.
ever see
Don't
a
touch my hot
rebate
tub.
on your bill,
I don't see it.
yeah, and the rebates are very
so
minimal, but that's
bad.
another thing that we found through this process, is there is no policy or ordinance ever passed to support those rebates. So when we do this whole ordinance, I would ask from our billing standpoint that we include those rebates
I got electric hot water heater.
into that ordinance via, either that ordinance or via resolution, but, yeah, I can look to see if you guys are on it.
But if you could shut your hot tub off while we run it, in the winter when peaking, yeah.
Yeah, that would freeze that sucker up.
Yeah. Not every home can be on it. I know, just from my experience, one of the homes I lived in, I asked to be put on it. At that time, the city electrician came in and said, I'm not touching that.
Well,
But
we
it's
may
not
have
safe.
that, and one other thing that we don't know yet is if we have any customers that want it, or if it's already existing in a rental house, we don't know anybody that's on life support equipment that is something, I mean, they're supposed to take care of their own equipment for a couple hour outage, I would assume. I don't know any of those rules either, but that may be one I would never really want to approach either. So, and then part of this, installing the new system is gonna be removing some of the old system too. That's, of the people I've talked to, there's the gateway boxes, the gray boxes mounted on the side of the house. Some people hate them, want them removed. Now this house that we was talking about on West 11th or 12th or whatever it is, he looked at him and said, well, you may want to leave them because they don't look as bad as the holes are going to be from the screws. So there's going to be some coordinating on how much gets removed and how much doesn't. And,
I have the gray box on my house.
well, everyone does to even read the old style meter electronically. So that box is there on every house.
Okay.
Some of the houses with load management, it actually is used to control the air conditioner part of it, because it has a lower voltage, lower wattage contactor in it that could use for the air conditioning 24-volt side.
But only central air, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
correct. I mean, technically, we could do, if a home had a bigger, maybe not, not window, but like my house has a bigger through-the-wall air conditioner on a dedicated 20-amp circuit. Technically, I could control that
You
circuit.
could get that onto load management?
Yeah. I don't know if it's worth it. I mean, you're talking, I don't know. I've seen some information based on tons and some information based on,
Yeah, we've never done it by the tonnage through the billing office, and so I don't know where that came from, if that was an original one, and then we decided not to do that.
I found something on Craig's initial install, and all of the air conditioning he has listed in tons, even on residential stuff.
Weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was never given to us that I'm aware of.
I don't know how we approach
And
it.
that's where I'm saying it would be super nice if we actually had this in resolution or ordinance so that we knew what we're supposed to be doing, because now we have all the people who initiated this, none of them are here. And I don't know about you, but if you've ever left a job, do you remember everything from that
That
first
happens a
job?
lot.
But-
We got a lot of fences built because Dennis said I could build this here. Dennis ain't been here for 25 years, and we're eventually gonna have to deal with that stuff,
We deal with it every day.
yeah.
That is the beauty of the stuff that we're putting in, like the water sensing stuff and the Landis and Gear stuff. It's just, once it's installed, it's just a matter of the next person stepping in and just seeing how it operates and learning the program, that's it. But it's usable by anybody, it's not just a one-man show deal, but we're kind of boring you guys with our operational stuff. I just wanted to give everybody a heads up on what's going on with this electrical stuff, because that's our big push for the this fall and next spring, is to get this water metering and the electrical metering stuff wrapped up. We have to get that done. That's paramount, that we finish up these two projects, so.
I would say,
Kurt's still on his call out, I don't know where, so I wanted to give Kurt a chance to, he's got a few things too that he's brought to me, that we've talked about, but he must be tied up with his call out, so.
I would say, I don't think it was a bad decision to go with Landis and Gear. I really don't. I mean, it's way more intensive. The city of Miller has just started working through load management, and their decision was to use Landis and Gear. So I don't think it was poorly thought out by any means, even that everyone was gone. It's just a lot more than I think we thought it was. So,
It's just like everything else, there's a learning curve to it.
yeah. And
It is software based, so
Yeah.
it just takes time, but.
I mean, I've even, a lot of the information, when you go to this screen to be able to pull some data, to do something with it back, you gotta go into Excel, copy it, bring it back into Command Center, which means you gotta be kind of proficient in Excel, which I wasn't. Still not. So, I mean, it's a lot, but I don't think it's a bad decision.
Oh, it sounds like.
So, the underground stuff in the Britain edition, is that gonna be done by November, or I'm just making up a name there?
Yeah.
When do you anticipate all the underground to be done?
This fall.
There's a new house going in on lot
Right
one.
there.
There's another home going out there on lot one.
Well, because I owe somebody a phone call and I'm not sure what to tell them. So I'm just trying to,
We're at Jody.
no, not.
It's gonna be in Lot 1
we
of
can't
Britain
use names
Edition.
here.
Oh, another one
But
going in?
yeah,
Yeah,
That's two, right?
that is 2.
So we just given an update on.
3 of
how
the 8 lots
project's
sold.
going in and the load management, and I
but
brought up the idea of.
One person owns two
Putting in
lots.
an ordinance
Right.
of new homes, new businesses going on load management, and so what the council would like is examples of that ordinance, so we can look into that. They think it's a good idea, we think it's a good idea. You have anything to add to what's going on with the current situation? Brad just asked you about your written edition underground, if that'd be completed this fall.
Will be.
pardon me?
It will be. Yeah.
As long as fall doesn't have a
Fall
definite
doesn't
date.
end till
If fall doesn't
December.
have, fall is when the snow's too deep to call it fall anymore, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
December 22nd.
When I have to have it done by, I think we can get it
Well,
done.
that's
by
the end of fall.
fall. Okay.
My question to him was, do you think November would be a logical time frame?
I'm thinking the end of September
I'll tell him November, okay?
on there, as long as something doesn't come up major. I mean, we gotta.
I understand. I owe a phone call to a
Yep.
guy, and so
Yep.
I just want to be able to tell him something, not that he won't over anticipate what we're gonna do.
We are 3/4 of the way done. We
That
have
don't mean anything to me, but
on there, so yeah,
if I tell him November, I'll be pretty safe.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So when you have a project and you've done 3/4 of it's completed, that's what that means.
75%.
It means the glass is 3/4 full, not empty.
I'm just trying to help you out, Brad.
Yeah.
It'll be cut over. I'm not gonna say the poles will be pulled. It won't be wrecked out
Okay.
by then.
And that particular project, that goes behind those apartments and up into the Britain Addition? You're
Yep.
doing all that at once?
Yep, so we are done from basically north of Juniper. We gotta tie it in a little bit, but we have pipe. We're actually can energize clear down to where the street stops on the by north right there. We are terminated that for, like what we talked about yesterday with Rehawk, so we can get that stuff moved over.
Okay,
And that's what we're gonna do there. We'll be able to, be able to keep it on. We got it ready to convert those houses as far as on the north side of Trip done.
yep,
The south side, we're not there to convert them over. We gotta kinda get the other side finished, but we're right there at that point. We just gotta shoot, we got 3 bores to do up along Plum there, up there.
and that's
then-
where the ditch is?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the ditch, we're gonna
Yep.
test our skills, is what I'm gonna say, on there, and, we gotta go to the east a little bit for that apartment right on Plum right there. We gotta get to the east, cause they kinda did a weird overhead underground tie-in, and we're just gonna put new wire all the way back to it, cause it's easier, and we won't have to put another box in there.
I
And-
just needed to know what to tell him about when.
Yeah, that's kind of,
Yeah, I'm not gonna go into all
On
that
that.
detailed stuff, just hopefully we'll have it done by November unless we have trouble.
yep, we'll probably not, the wrecking out of it, we might not get that quite done, but we'll get it converted.
Wrecking out is taking down the old poles and
Yeah,
that kind of stuff?
taking the wire
Okay.
down, stuff like that. We'll see.
Okay,
There's a few things that I wanna also get done, but
Okay.
as far as getting it converted over on it.
My only question on that project is, we're gonna move the pole or transformer box or whatever out of the laid out street alleyway, roadway. It's gonna be out of that area,
but
right?
Not gonna be existent.
Non-existent?
Non-existent overhead, or the overhead's getting all converted to underground down that street north. And then we've had problems on the south side of Trip, right there, that's kind of a bad line right there, so that'll be all buried. The houses on the north side of Trip were fed overhead on the back
On the
there,
back side.
that'll all be converted over. Basically, I think from whatever McDonald's Road is, kind of right there, kind of up into that will be all underground. at
So
that
it'll be
point.
free to be engineered the street, however that ends up being, whatever the stuff's out of
Are you
the
still
road.
gonna have a little whoop-de-doo street?
I
Yes.
think we're gonna have to.
Yes. It's,
You got to now.
Why?
I mean, it's
That's what,
unavoidable.
huh?
it's unavoidable.
Why?
It'll
Because
be
it's
no,
in the
it'll
ground.
be no different look than what we have right up Monroe, where we get from Fifth. We have a hooey in the street. We
Monroe.
have them all over town.
Seventh
It'll look
Street?
It'll look like the same as
Sixth.
at the top of the hill on Lamb Road.
I'm sorry?
It'll look the same as the top of the hill on Lamb Road. One side of the street, you'll have a straight curb and
Yep.
gutter. On the
Yep.
other side of the street, you're gonna have a little you're gonna have a little hoop-de-doo in it.
Yep.
It's the way the council signed off on that,
On that
plan-
plating, yep,
the
I
plating
agree.
for that
We
addition, and
Beat that to death. We looked at one side of the plat, we didn't look at the existing. We didn't see how they matched up.
Correct.
and the way he drew out his
Lesson learned.
lot sizes and the way he laid his curb and gutter in there, we'd have to change.
Lesson
It's
learned.
not even
So we'll have
possible.
a hooey in that street too. But we got them all over town because I was totally against having that change, but after driving around town, they're all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah, roll with the punch.
It actually, most people don't even notice it. It's more of a pain in the butt for the city workers, like snow
Yeah,
removal, because all of a
Because you're
sudden
gonna break that
you got-
curb
you got a
several
big-
times.
Big snowdrift and you're driving along and all of a sudden, bam, you hit the curb. So we try to put cones on those so we know where they're at. And
Yep.
It's just, it is what it is. It's been done. Nothing you can do to reverse it now.
And that one power box is gonna be moved or whatever, so.
Yeah,
Yep.
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 That's,
Got it. 9:00.
I'm done. You got anything?
I don't think so.
Ray pretty much covered everything you can talk about.
Good deal.